We are now starting our first theme, Future Workplace, a Connected Environment. With 3 sessions, the new normal, opportunities for your workplace, a panel on supporting a remote culture, and a presentation by Dale Sinclair of ICOM on the future of work, accelerating change.
Hello and welcome to this session on the new normal, the opportunities you have for your workplace. I'm Iain Fisher, I'm a director in the Northern Europe practice and I work in the digital strategy and solutions area, leading the future of work and digital agility. The biggest impacts of work have been discussed before and after the very recent change that we all know happened where we've all had to work at home. I'm only going to mention this thing twice. However, prior to that, the future of work was being discussed in boardrooms across the land and the world. The biggest impacts, however, have been the rise of millennial and digital technology. Their strive as a customer and an end user and then an employee to make things simpler and faster to work, more agile, has driven business to think differently. And the way they've always worked is then to accommodate at-home working. Flexible working became the norm. At-home working became the norm. Anywhere you were able to work and work remotely was one of the key things that attracted people. 75% of the employees in the world will be millennials by 2025. That's not to say age and experience doesn't have a place to play, but the millennials coming in demand different things, and the ability to work where they want, kind of where they want, is one of the key drivers. 55% will turn down a job if they don't have the ability to work flexibly, and they would rather that than extra pay, which is a useful data point. They brought with them the kind of the funky, dress down Fridays and different ways of working, and that permeated the workplace where people, like the design labs and the creatives who used to dress down anyway, it became a bit more casual in the workplace, and flexible using digital technology became the norm. And we've all experienced these, the collaboration sessions, digital, the design thinking sessions. These were all the rage, but it was a slow burn, and it wasn't always seen with a rosy pair of glasses. It was seen as a bit of a perk in some cases, and there was always a kind of status quo that had to be maintained. However, the last thing that has had the biggest impact and probably the biggest opportunity for you is COVID-19 or coronavirus, and we're only going to touch on this very quickly. So the drive prior to lockdown was always around the millennial, the rise of millennial. The drive with COVID, where people said it couldn't be done, it had to be done, and it was done on time. So where's that? An access point or a mini project that might take 2 to 6 months, that was done in 2 to 6 weeks. That excuse of we can't do it fast enough is no longer stands, and it therefore has happened. The future of work is really about the ability to work anywhere, serve anywhere. Now, what do I mean by that? This is an ISG statement, and we believe that the employees of the future will be able to work anywhere, i.e. be flexible enough, and serve your internal and external customer anywhere. Now, to do that, they need certain key things, and the 6 things on the screen here that you'll see. The 3 on the left are for the customer, and the 3 on the right are for the internal customer and the ability to collaborate. So really what we have here is end-to-end digital connectivity, connectedness. You require 3 things to really get to the customer, and that is multi-channel access. So your customer must be able to access your services and access the things you offer at any point at any time. And to do that, you need to offer a personalized experience. Your customers, your competitor is only really 1 click away, and therefore for you to have a sticky experience, you need to make sure that you offer that experience. Having an integrated data platform, that means you capture the customer data and you can pass it between internal departments to know what the customer is doing at all points, is really key to success here. And therefore, if you can deliver a better customer experience, your customer experience will become stickier, the customers will like that, and using digital technology, they will tweet about it, they will maintain customer loyalty, and loyalty trumps everything. Having that integrated data means you can have a better customer service, and that could be the front end, and we'll talk about an example later on as to how coronavirus, and that's the second time, will offer and has offered experiences and opportunities for business to change the way they deliver customer service, and therefore customer experience. However, internally, to maintain this agility, which is up on the right-hand side, you need to have a new operating model. And that operating model has to be digital. For a digital operating model to be successful, you therefore have to keep changing what you offer, and that time to market has to be much, much faster. So you've got to pivot, you've got to be product aligned, and you've got to be agile. That's going to require your employees to have autonomous help, so automation, so hybrid assistance, the ability to add more value to the work they do, and therefore hand off the more laborious, monotonous, standardized work to robotics. It's not going to replace people, it's going to be hybrid. And that finally means collaboration. Collaboration between employees is the essence of what they're going to do. No longer with what's happened, are we going just to go and sit in offices, and we'll see some data points on that later on. What that means is you are going to have a change to your property strategy, a change to your people strategy, and a change to your digital strategy. And you will have employees still going to an office. You will still need property, you will still need buildings, you will still need collaboration space. But that collaboration space will be adaptable, it will be smart, and it will allow you to actually go and do work that you need to do rather than just sitting in an office doing whatever you were there to do, like email. The transformation of work has, like I said, been discussed for years, but now it's a reality. The wrecking ball that we've seen of COVID coming through the boardroom wall has created a 4-step plan. There's really 3, but one is split into 2. So if you haven't already, you need to be fighting that fire. Many businesses, 25% of business in the UK and in Western Europe, temporarily or completely cease trading. That's huge. Across the data point for the UK Office of National Statistics, checked 17,000 large-scale companies. 25% of them stopped or reduced trading in the crisis. Therefore, they all haven't fought the fire. They are still coming back online now that lockdown's coming, but the rest that have adapted what worked and are to make it better, and are changing what didn't work to make sure it doesn't not work again in the future. So that's really around addressing the impact. Adapting the operation is making sure that you are ready and you're deploying what we've just mentioned, the operating model, the tooling, digital, and your property and people strategies to make sure that they're ready to go, and that allows you to plan for growth. So everything you're about to see is exactly along those lines. Now, ISG has spent a lot of time looking at the future of work, and as the lead for it, we've come up with what most people will recognise as a citywide tube map. This diagram, which is for discussion and can be talked about later if you want to get in contact, really shows all the types of worker that we envisage we're going to have in the future. We'll talk about that very briefly in a second. And what it does is show all the interactions which are represented by the white stations as to how people will interact in the future and what will happen if you have a problem, right from inviting guests into your new building. So the thinking that's gone into this, along with the coloured zones, as you'll see on the screen here, is really showing you the thinking that's gone into everything from technology to people to property, right down to having to wipe down the offices after every use. Now we're going to have social distancing and health and safety measures in there. So this diagram here shows the key elements of what we will do, and all this is part of this session. We're going to touch on it, but this is the real detail. If you're interested, get in touch after and I can walk you through it. Assessing the change of roles and people is going to be crucial. So we all have a role now. We're all working at home, and we're all going to expect to do something in the future to continue doing that role. We see there's really 4 types of role. There are physical workers, those of us who used to go and work in buildings. There are remote workers like myself who would work all around the world. We then have backbone workers who are really around your technology backbone or your ecosystem of partners who provide and keep provide services and keep the lights on to make sure your operation doesn't fall over. And for those that failed are really the ones that are the largest part of the 25% that could not cope during the crisis. And then we have hybrid workers who are this flexible workforce that we talked about before. They're going to all change in a new shape. So what does it actually look like? Well, we're still going to need office space. The physical workers will reduce, and physical workers may be permanently based at home, or they may be permanently based in the office, and we still will need both, right? But some people may want to be permanently based at home. We're looking at research, and we're hearing from clients that we speak to where 80+% of people no longer want to just go back and sit in an office. They want to spend 3 to 4 days at home and remove that stigma of the work from home, that 80% of management used to think was a kind of a perk, and you'll see a stat on that in a minute. What that means is the remote workforce is going to grow exponentially, and that means we have to have digital technology. So the blue box here about your backbone workers overlaps the green, and it will move because it's going to have to support a larger workforce. It's going to have to get smarter, and therefore we are going to have to see new ways of working with backbone to make sure that collaboration happens, problems don't happen, because we have automation to make sure that we're checking laptop health, we're looking at application health and platform health to make sure we can work. So these remote workers will no longer be able to just pop into a help desk or whatever. However, we are starting to see discussion around the emergence of an onshore sliver of an IT department to make sure that does work for those who are in an office. On the flip side, we are also hearing that we're predicting that the outsourcing of services will grow. And that means you will have this gulf between the two of a small service to maintain those who have to work in a particular location, and then a much larger offshoring or outsourcing of service to make sure the lights are kept on. That will be on the basis of automation being kept in there. Hybrid workers. Now, we have in the UK, I believe, about 7 or 8 million furloughed workers. The hybrid workforce, this is an opportunity through the pandemic for companies to offer better work-life balance for workers when they come back online, to assess their operating model and make sure that workers can deliver what they need. And we see this as being the workers who fill in the gaps, a bit like a hybrid battery system for a car that maintains power for engine delivery. This will be the hybrid workforce that maintains the peaks and troughs in customer service or development or whatever your part of the business may be. This will be the flexible hybrid workforce for the remote workforce to maintain the business. As you've heard some of the statistics, and you can read them on the screen, there are effectively 3 things going on. There's a perfect storm where a large proportion of businesses in the EU have had to stop trading, and we talked about the number there. It's almost a quarter. Almost 60% have seen a significant reduction in turnover, and 25%, which is quite astounding, have actually had to go and find a new supplier. They have not been able to maintain supply chain, which is something that you should be looking at and you have to look at. And a large proportion of them have had to pay more. So costs have gone up, revenue has gone down, and therefore the cost base has been misaligned. So what is the win-win? The win-win is the employees who have worked at home like working at home and want to stay working home. As we've said, the 81% for some of the data we've seen shows they want to maintain it, but it's win-win. You get a higher productivity with employees who work at home. Roughly 30% are more productive in terms of productivity increase. That relates to about 5 hours extra per week, which is significant when you take travel time, and when you then take the cost of that travel time to the employee, it's worth about $4,500, about £3,000. That's a significant win-win. The flip side is that for the corporation or the organization, for every process you can automate or you can part automate, you save on average $37 per day per employee. That is huge. If you have 1 to 500 employees, that amounts up to several hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that could be saved. You also save on reduction of power. That's a significant proportion there as well. Home equipment is cheaper and easier to run. Power is one of the big lines in the balance sheet, and if you can actually, from your costs, reduce that is a significant. And for the planet, you are reducing CO2 emissions as well. Therefore, the total saving is about 10,000 employees who partially or fully go from home working. So win-win. From a perfect storm, there are opportunities. I'm very briefly going to touch on this, and this is one of the key things around what we call the workplace mosaic. It's a bit of a honeycomb, and there are 6 things that have to be discussed here. As I've mentioned already, you are going to maintain a property portfolio. You are going to have office space, but that office space will be adaptable. You have to provide location flexibility for the people who will work there. No longer are they just going to sit in the office, because that office won't be lines of desks or rows of desks. They will have to be socially distant if they are, so 2 meters or 1 meter if we go down to that, and that space will have to change. So employees must have the benefit or the ability to work anywhere. They are going to have to have integrated autonomy and autonomous help, so hybrid assistance, RPA, machine learning, etc., to help do monotonous tasks that take it away. The IT has to work. So the IT department has to have always on IT, which means business critical systems always run. You must be digitally connected to your internal and external customer to make sure that they can essentially reach you at any place, at any time, at any point in the process. And then finally, you have to be able to socially collaborate to maintain the mental health, to maintain the performance of the team, and to also maintain that link with your customer. So very briefly, let's go through each of these. So the Adaptable Workspace will have, and you can read on the screen here, a number of key things which adapts it. You would walk into an office, an acoustic bubble can be changed because it will be deployed. It will be an open plan office. You might check in with holograms rather than front desk. The physical space means reduced cost. You can actually have community hubs so that our clients who are looking at removing 80-90% of employees to have a community hub that customers can come and work on. So that's the Adaptable Workspace. The ability to work from anywhere is really about the operating model and the agility within the business that improves the talent acquisition, so the millennial and the smart worker, to where and when they want to work, to the behaviours and changing the internal and customer behaviour about access. So you might be able to improve that by providing anytime access to customers. That provides better customer centricity, and by having a hybrid workforce, that means when you are not physically there, you have autonomy to do automation to help you out. You can still provide that seamless interaction with the customer so that some or all of the process can be done. Automation and cognitive we've covered already, so I'll skip through this, but really we're talking about RPA, machine learning patterns of behavior. So when a customer does interact, we can either proactively offer a new service, or internally we can see what people are doing and actually make sure that laptops and things work all the time so that they're not they're not down, and that then picks it up. AI, cognitive assistants and virtual assistants are really there to support the needs of the smart worker. Always on IT really means that you have these business critical things that work. They have to work. So real-time support on the machine, and we hear a number of suppliers and service integrators are doing this now. Having everything or as much as you can on the cloud, so it's always accessible. Those businesses that thrived during the pandemic had a high proportion of cloud-based IT. Having that enterprise agility where even if it wasn't as high as they liked in the cloud, having the ability to pivot and adapt their service offering, like Airbnb offered a new service online where you could book an experience with people, hosts, who were able to provide you with a concert or something. So they had talents and they pivoted their software to provide these new abilities, these new products. So having that agility to offer new parts of your software or new parts of your service is crucial. But that's down to your innovation partners that you see at the bottom of the screen here, and your smart thinkers, your design thinking sessions, and your kind of technology consultants who know how to deliver this. And that makes sure you have all that there. Digital connectivity is really around having the ability to connect, and we'll cover an example in this. So I'm just going to skirt over some of this, but it improves the employee experience. Digital connectivity through video rather than just voice. Again, having better user adoption. People want a lot more ability to connect with you. So give them that thing, that request. You have to now because they are working at home. So why not continue? And then finally, virtual and social interaction. So by having connectivity and social interaction, your utilization will go up. They'll work harder for a shorter time, as we've seen already. That makes them a bit more agile because they can work at home. They can do the work-life balance. The number of times we've seen kids and things in the background, that is no longer the funny moment of the newsreel where the kids walk in the background. That is possibly going to become the norm. So opportunities to improve customer experience. Well, here's number one. So the data shows, looking at the detail there, that 64% of people prefer email as a channel, but 59% still want in-person contact. 56 want to interact over the phone, and you can read the rest on there. So really the hypothesis I put to you is almost 2/3 of customers want person-to-person contact, and typically more than 50% want digital and more connectivity. However, we have social guidelines that we have to push traffic online. So the potential opportunity, as an example of thinking differently in the opportunities that this pandemic has given, is how about we offer, or you offer, remote video contact centres. I've seen potential examples of this online where people are playing around with the idea. And what that means is, rather than just having a phone number where you dial in and you get a recorded message saying, sorry, due to the pandemic, we don't have enough staff, that can still possibly be the case. However, to maintain that customer experience, offering virtual or video connectivity to speak to someone live on the device, because everybody has some phone or another, whether it's FaceTime or Skype or whatever it is, will give and respect the boundaries put in place by the pandemic and government guidelines, but it will give a better customer experience. So that's opportunity one. So change your front end, change your customer experience to offer something that no one else is. Opportunity two is around the new people and property strategy. This is your opportunity to fundamentally change the way you do business. The numbers here are all in the high 70s, except for office utilization. So we are expecting from the likes of some of the big players there around the reduction in office space and the utilization of that office space. So property and its usage will be fundamental. So new social guidelines are going to require you to rethink your property strategy, how customers come into the building and how customers interact. Almost 2/3 of your employees are happy working at home, but you need to maintain overall collaboration. So the new people and property strategy will require digital connectivity for people to work at home, and there's a flippant picture there of somebody working in bed. However, the collaboration area you have at your office will be more like the whiteboard walls that you have there, which is probably my ideal office, but somewhere you can sit and you can collaborate and draw and visually conceive what's going to happen and change your digital business. So these are just two things. So really the mantra is look at the data, build a hypothesis of how that data is driving things through. So something and something but something else leads to a potential opportunity, and I've offered just two there. Happy for anyone to get in contact and discuss further. I just want to leave you with the word cloud here, where of all the things we've been looking at in terms of opportunities for a better customer experience and digital agility and the future of work, connectivity comes through, and you can read on the cloud there. So thank you very much for watching. The next session will be the panel session, and if you just want to pop over to there, that would be great. Thank you very much.